Sandeep Pondrik, Secretary of Steel, Government of India for this CII Steel Summit 2025. So we are privileged to have you amongst us and we look forward to your insights and guidance today. May I also extend my warm welcome to Mr. Jayant Acharya, Mr. Karamat Saeed, to this CII National Conference on Steel. The vision of Viksit Bharat is a transformative initiative which positions India as a developed and self-driven nation by 2047, driven by inclusive growth, innovation and sustainability. As a foundational industry, the steel sector stands at the core of this transformation, driving industrial growth and national resilience by supporting a rapid urbanization and social progress. As the backbone of the construction and manufacturing, steel will be central to shaping world-class cities, modern transports, energy and logistics corridors, and industrial ecosystems. Steel represents progress. It defines development that is faster, safer, and more sustainable for the India of tomorrow. Steel is also critical to Make in India and is the base material for modernization of transport infrastructure through high-speed rails, metros, highways, ports, renewable projects, high-rise buildings, housing, all of which enables a faster, safer, and a much more developed India in the future. India has embarked on a bold journey towards the Viksit Bharat of 2047, and steel sector is central to this mission, with the national steel policy setting a target of 300 million tons by 2030-31 and 500 million tons by 2047 to cater to India's needs. In order to build steel capacity at scale and speed that we all aspire, it is imperative that the infrastructure capacity is set up to move raw materials and finished goods across the country in an efficient manner. This requires the industry, the central and the state governments to work in tandem on creating efficient capacity for smooth operations. The steel mission requires dedicated mineral corridors and enhancement of rail capacity along with expedited clearances for growth. We look forward to work with the government on creating infrastructure capacity which is commensurate with the growth in the steel industry. One of the key pillars of Viksit Bharat is sustainability, and a push towards green steel is now an imperative, not really a choice. Through advanced and sustainable technologies, be it the electric arc furnace or other new technologies that are emerging, the steel industry is promoting eco-friendly manufacturing and value-added products, promoting recycling of steel and scrap-based production, and processing infrastructure are key steps in this regard. Under the guiding principles of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the focus is now on achieving raw material security, technological advancement, and promoting sustainable industrial practices. Strengthening domestic capabilities will ensure that India would become a trusted global supplier in the world's global steel value chain. Additionally, steel manufacturing will promote inclusive growth by driving job creation in mining, logistics, MSMEs, and downstream fabrication. Steel will remain somewhat unseen, perhaps, and yet critical force behind major milestones nationally. A balanced blend of investment, innovation, and supportive policies will help the Indian steel industry to reposition itself as a global frontrunner in sustainable and high-value steel production. A robust steel sector, therefore, would be a very important element in India's trade and global stature also. Today's event seeks to address and deliberate on the key challenges shaping the steel industry, and therefore explore pathways towards a sustainable and self-reliant growth. Over the next few hours today, several panel discussions will focus on exploring pathways towards sustainable and self-reliant growth. We will engage industry leaders, policymakers, and experts to discuss innovative strategies, best practices that can enhance the competitiveness of the steel sector. We'll also look for discussion with policymakers on what could drive growth in the steel industry and enhance its competitiveness, especially in the context of the various vectors of change that is happening globally. By fostering dialogue and sharing insights, we aspire to identify actionable solutions that will not only strengthen our industry but also contribute to India's vision of becoming a developed economy. We look forward to a day of meaningful dialogues and deliberation that will help in shaping this journey. Thank you so much.
I invite Mr. Karamit Sayed, Head of Sales and Marketing for Industry and Exports, AMNS India Private Limited, to give his address, please.
Good morning, esteemed delegates, respected industry leaders and innovators. It is a genuine privilege to deliver the opening keynote at the 2025 Steel Summit here in New Delhi. My name is Karamit Sayed and I represent ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel. We meet at a pivotal moment. The vision is clear: Viksit Bharat, a developed, self-reliant India. The backbone of this vision is steel. Today, during the course of the day, we will discuss how we forge this backbone to both sustainable and globally competitive. The topic before us, building a sustainable and globally competitive steel industry for Viksit Bharat, is not just a strategic challenge, it is our national mandate. We have to ask, how do we build 300 million tons of capacity without destroying our planet? How do we compete with the world while remaining true to our commitments? Viksit Bharat is impossible without a robust steel sector. Steel is not just a commodity, it is a strategic enabler. It is the silent force behind. Key examples over here being the national infrastructure pipeline, steel for every bridge, metro and port. For example, the iconic Chenab Bridge, the world's highest railway bridge, is a testament to India's steel strength. We should also be mindful that the world is changing. We must address two key challenges: decarbonization. Steel contributes around 7 to 9% of global CO2 emissions. Global markets like the EU's CBAM demand green steel. Global competitiveness is the second challenge, wherein to meet the goal of 300 million metric ton of production by 2030 and compete globally, we need to focus on efficiency, specialty steel production and cost control. We must transition from being a net importer of specialty steel to a global export hub as envisioned by the government. This requires high value, high quality, made in India steel. AMNS India has also been walking the talk in this regard. We have been leading the decarbonization drive. At AMNS India, we believe in green action, not just green promises. We already operate one of India's cleanest steel mills. Our commitment is validated by our targets: 20% reduction in emission intensity by 2030 from our 2021 baseline. In this context, we have partnered with Greenco Group to develop a 975 megawatt round-the-clock renewable energy project in Andhra Pradesh. This will supply clean power to our Hazira plant, thereby reducing our annual carbon emissions significantly. We are also looking at embracing circularity and innovation. Sustainability is also about using our resources smarter, embracing a circular economy and transforming waste into wealth. For example, steel slag in road construction. We are the first in India to secure a license for a breakthrough steel slag aggregates technology. This takes processed waste, which is steel slag, and converts it into high quality, durable aggregates for road construction. This not only reduces landfill burden, but also substitutes natural resources. Driving global competitiveness through high value steel, AMNS India focuses on providing steel solutions that make our customers globally competitive This means producing new and advanced grades of steel like McNeilus for the renewable segment. McNeilus is a unique metallic coated steel which offers 10 times the corrosion resistance of standard galvanized steel, making it ideal for the highly corrosive environments of a large-scale solar and renewable energy projects. This directly supports the Make in India mission in the critical green energy sector. I would like to conclude by saying that the path to Viksit Bharat requires green steel and globally competitive steel. Collaboration, technology, and a commitment to genuine sustainability are the three pillars that will elevate our industry. Let us work together to ensure that every kilogram of steel forged in this nation is a robust, competitive, and sustainable step towards a developed, resilient, and prosperous India. Thank you.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to welcome Shri Sandeep Pondrik, Secretary Steel, Government of India. Sir, it's a privilege to have you with us today at this distinguished forum, and we look forward to valuable insights from you during these discussions. Steel sector, I think as my previous speakers have already discussed, is vital to the goal of Viksit Bharat by 2047. It's the social backbone, it's the infrastructure backbone of any economy, and especially when India is in the nation building phase, steel forms a critical part of all our initiatives like Make in India or Gati Shakti or smart cities, manufacturing, automotive, defense, clean energy, everything requires steel. As the second largest steel producer globally, India has a very strong steel base which encourages self-reliance, job creation, and also regional growth across the country. Keep in mind that most of the steel companies or most of the steel factories, I think it's 100% of them, are in the hinterland. So therefore, the development of the communities around the hinterland is something which the steel company actively undertakes. As we grow our steel capacities, we have to be conscious of the fact that the world is moving towards a sustainable future, and therefore it's important for us to integrate our volumes and growth with a sustainable growth. So green steel is an essential component of our journey, and we are aligning our policies in line with the net zero goal for India. Based on the theme of today, building sustainable and globally competitive steel industry, I think today's conference will focus on key enablers which can position the steel industry at the center of Viksit Bharat, center of development of India as a developed nation. The steel industry also shares a very symbiotic relationship, if you see, with the economy. The steel industry grows in line with the economy. If you see the last 4 years, the elasticity of the steel with GDP is almost 1.5 times. And if you see the countries gone by which have developed their national countries' infrastructure, whether Japan, Korea or China, they used to have an intensity of 1.5 to 2, and we are experiencing the same kind of movement in the last 4 years. So you will see the steel industry and the economy going through an inflection point for the decade or two as India develops its national infrastructure, housing, manufacturing, etc. The steel industry has a huge potential to grow. If you look at India as a country, we have the raw material, we have the manpower, and we have the market. Very few countries have a combination of this kind available. There are few structural challenges which we need to address, I think, to be able to take advantage of this potential. And the foundational for that would be the raw material security. India and the steel industry requires a lot of iron ore, of which we have ample. We require coking coal, and we require a scrap ecosystem as we are growing towards a more sustainable, greener steel production. It's important to make these available, but it's also important to make this available at the right price so that the cost of producing steel is also competitive by global standards. Come around it. And I think building green steel plants is one of them. In JSW Steel, we are already trying to build a 4 million ton facility which will provide low carbon emission steel to customers who would require such steel. The other lever would be ongoing dialogue with the government, and I'm happy to say that the government has been very supportive in terms of providing stable policies to the country at large. I think over the last few years we have seen global challenges which the world has faced. However, India's stable policies has encouraged kind of a seamless growth, and we have seen India becoming the fastest growing major economy in the world. Collaboration will help us to align our policies to what the industry needs, and we will work closely together with the government to iron out such policies. So the path ahead is based on 3 pillars, if I could mention those. One is strategic investment. The second one is creating a self-reliant steel industry which will be able to supply to the manufacturing sector. And the third is not to take off our eyes from sustainability initiatives, which is very critical to reduce our carbon footprint. As we strive towards Viksit Bharat 2047, steel stands as the backbone of India's progress, enabling infrastructure, manufacturing, defense, clean energy. By embracing self-reliance and technology, I think India will be able to create a stronger, greener, and globally competitive nation. I'm sure the discussions today will have many shared insights, and we will be able to make a path to make India into a great nation and create a self-reliant steel industry to support India as we go to Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues on the dais. So let us start with my previous speaker spoke about good news in the steel sector. The good news is consumption is increasing, capacity is increasing. So these are the production is increasing. We are the only, perhaps the only, or we are the only economy where consumption is increasing in double digits for last 3 years at over 12%. This year the consumption is increasing at 8.5%, likely to increase further in the second half of the financial year. To cater to the increasing consumption, the capacities are coming up. So in last 10 years, we have increased about 100 million tons of capacity, reaching 200 million tons of capacity. And our production is at level to cater to the consumption. So these are the good things which are happening. As Mr. Jayant Acharya said, the future looks bright. Our economy is growing fast, and the elasticity of steel demand with economy is also growing. So it's likely that in foreseeable future, in coming decade or two, this growth of steel demand is likely to continue. This is also because our per capita steel consumption is growing now. It has reached 108 kgs last year, that is 24-25, which is much lower than the world average of 225, but still it's much better than what we were a decade ago. And with stabilization of population and growing prosperity in the country and especially in rural areas, the per capita steel consumption is also likely to grow faster, contributing to the steel consumption demand. So these are all good things, bright things.
gives hope to the steel sector. Having said that, there are certainly some challenges before the steel sector. I would first start with a challenge which I have seen in last 1 year. I am sure that many of you who have been working in the steel sector for decades must have seen it, and that is to see steel as an important component of the economy. While in this hall, in this room, we say that steel is backbone of the economy, how many people outside this hall actually realize that steel is the backbone of the economy? Because you don't actually sell steel to any consumer. Nobody buys like a steel per se. Steel is always an intermediate product. Nobody realizes how important steel is. And that perception I see as a problem for steel sector, or rather a challenge, because then we are not able to convince the people, the common citizen, that steel sector is important and needs to be promoted, protected, because you are always in the background of the. So somebody is buying a car, somebody is buying a refrigerator, somebody is buying something, everything has a lot of steel, but he sees the car, he doesn't see the steel. So that I am, as steel secretary, I am seeing that as a challenge, because then you are not able to convince the common perception that steel is actually important, needs to be promoted, protected, self-reliance is important in steel. As Mr. Jayant Acharya said, many countries in the world now are taking steel as a security, national security measure. But national security measure in a government is one thing, in the public perception is another thing. So that I think is the one challenge, important challenge which I am saying before the steel sector, how to convince the people that they need to protect the steel industry for self-reliance, for a long-term self-reliance of the country. And it's a strategic sector in the sense that if you become dependent on imports, or if you become dependent on something, specialty steel for imports, then you may face problems because of whatever geopolitical reasons, which we are seeing today in the world. The second challenge before the steel sector is to dispel the notion that this industry is only run by 3 or 4 people. You go outside this hall, again I am talking about things which people in this hall don't speak, but I am bringing a perspective which common people have. Everybody thinks there are only 3 or 4 people who produce all the steel in the country. And when they are big, why should we, they are good enough, they are big enough, why should we try to promote them, protect them? And all of us know the names, some of them are here, SAIL is not here, but they think that's not a fact in fact. 50% of the steel in the country is produced by 2,200 steel producers. Not 50, 47, but almost half. 47% of steel in the country is produced by almost medium and small enterprises who produce 47%, and they are small producers. Again, it's a perception issue. So that is another challenge before the steel sector, to say that they are a distributed sector, not controlled by 3 or 4 people. Because again it factors into public support and government policies. So that's another challenge. Price, obviously I am happy that nobody before me talked about price, but price is an issue. We are running at almost 5-year low prices, though I should say that 5 years ago the prices were too high, or rather they were higher than what they should have been, but today they are lower than what they should have been. So price is a challenge, because if you just have to survive, if you just have to run a common sector, then maybe the present prices are okay, at least for the big players. Small players are facing problems. We know that about 150 small players have stopped production because of low price. About 50 of them have reduced their production by less than 50%. So that's what the data says. So small players are facing problems. You just saw the results of Q2 of all companies. Almost all of them, the profit margins reduced. I saw that SAIL reduced the profit margins significantly, more than half. But price is a problem, especially when, as was said, when we need to invest in 100 million tons of capacity in next maybe 5 to 7 years, and another 100 million ton in 5 to 7 years after that. So a 100 million ton capacity means $100 billion. $100 billion in Indian rupees will be 8.5, 9 lakh crores. From where this money will come if the prices are not reasonable? So price is an issue, especially in view of the fact that we have to add capacity in the sector. We have to increase the capacity both in the big the ISPs and also in the small sector. Related to price are imports. My previous speaker spoke about excess or surplus production in the world and consequent dumping, which is a real problem, not only for us but for every country, because it is impacting the prices, it is benchmarking the prices. And this is one area where, as a government, we are trying to ensure that domestic steel players get a reasonable price. Government imposed safeguard duty provisionally for now to ensure that domestic steel industry doesn't face injury due to whatever reasons, due to cheap imports. We are also trying to ensure that substandard steel doesn't come into the country through quality control orders, because when you impose quality control orders, you ensure that the domestic players and the exporters from other countries are at the same level in terms of quality. So these are some of the measures which the government is taking to see that cheap substandard steel is not flooded into the market, which in turn harms the domestic industry and especially the smaller players, because their margins are small, their scale of operations are small. And the fifth challenge I see before the industry is the raw material. Now, again, I will tell you the common perception. If you ask anybody who is not from the steel industry, he will say that so much iron ore is there, what is our problem? People think you just take iron ore, you just do something and it turns into steel. That's the common perception. People don't know that iron ore is not the most expensive raw material in steel making. The most expensive raw material is coal, coking coal. Means if you measure it in terms of cost. And So there are two challenges. One is we have enough iron ore. We have billions of tons of iron ore. I don't think there is any likely shortage of iron ore for foreseeable future. But we are not starting our mines fast enough. Some of the players, I'm sure, will be here who have iron ore mines. We need to start the iron ore mines and need to increase the production, not only for domestic steel production but also for exports. We have enough iron ore in the country that we not only can cater to the domestic requirement, we can also export iron ore. Area where we are trying with Ministry of Coal to see that whether we can increase the share of domestic coking coal in steel making. And this import is likely to increase because our capacities are increasing and our coking coal production of steel grade is not increasing, so that's a major challenge. So these are some of the challenges. I talked about good things, challenges. Now I will talk about the opportunities. What are the opportunities? So one obviously means Mr. Jayant Acharya and Mr. Kaushik also talked about the opportunity that our consumption is growing. We have enough domestic consumption or demand to create a good market, but exports are squeezing. All of us are aware that countries are putting barriers. European Union, the CBAN is definitely going to impact our exports. And if we want to export to EU in spite of CBAN, then we will have to reduce the carbon footprint and also move to perhaps to the DRI route. Now the problem in DRI route is that we don't have gas and technologies, but one good thing or one opportunity which is coming, maybe not now, but maybe in 5 to 10 years, is the hydrogen price. I am told by MNRE that the hydrogen prices are coming down much faster than what they were expected. The last price I am told which was bidded for their tenders is around 280 rupees. Now if these prices keep on going down the way they are going or faster as expected, then maybe in 5 to 10 years hydrogen will become a viable alternative to natural gas. And then the DRI plus hydrogen route can become a viable option for green steel. We have already started some pilots along with all the steel companies to try out hydrogen usage, both in the blast furnace and DRI route. I am sure that in 5 years' time we will have the results of the pilots, and this is a big opportunity in sense of decarbonization as well as exports, because in coming years we will need greener steel for exports. So if we are able to reduce our carbon footprint, there is a limitation on blast furnace via BOF route, means we can't go below a threshold. But DRI hydrogen, I am sure will be an opportunity, and our sector will be able to take advantage of the opportunity. Another opportunity I see is the specialty steel. Most of the steel which is not imported into the country because of price is specialty steel. Means there is a price consideration and there is a requirement that we don't have specialty steel of that grade in the country. It's good thing that investments are being made in specialty steel, but we need to make more investments and focus on specialty steel, because as our defense sector grows, As you know, the defense sector manufacturing is growing in the country. As other specialty steel requirements like space sector grows, as the auto sector grows, we will need more and more specialty steel in the country. This sector is a great opportunity both from the point of view of investment as well as from the point of view of self-reliance. For example, power sector. As all of us know, the power sector is growing in the country by leaps and bounds, and which means that more and more transformers will be needed. And presently, we need to import most of our electric steel or CRGO from outside. So if we are, our companies are investing in CRGO, but I am just giving an example of opportunity of specialty steel, which is there. So there are good things, there are challenges, and there are opportunities. One mission which the government is planning to encourage green steel is the National Mission on Sustainable Steel. Likely to, it's still under approval, but we will basically encourage greener steel production or reduction of carbon footprint. And the last point which I would like to flag before this August gathering is indigenization, both of technologies and capital goods. It's an irony that though our steel sector, like many sectors, is more than 100 years old, we are still dependent on most critical technologies and also capital goods manufacturing on other countries. I will request our steel makers in private sector to see whether we can encourage indigenization of both capital goods manufacturing and technologies. As far as government companies are concerned, basically SAIL, RINL and NSL, we have already issued instructions that Indian technologies and plants with more capital goods, Indian made capital goods, need to be encouraged. So if there are two options before them, one with Indian technology or one with more Indian capital goods, then they will have to go for the Indian technology or more capital goods. I will request, urge our steel sector to also work in that direction, because ultimately it is beneficial for the sector. Number one, in terms of cost, when you are importing things, capital goods, obviously the cost will be higher. Number two, supply chain logistics issues. If there is a supply chain issue in future or at any time, anything which is coming from remote will have a risk. So indigenization is an important aspect I think we should focus on. The Minister has given us this target of 500 million tons by 2047. I am sure we will not only achieve that, we will, means by the speed our sector is growing, we will probably exceed that. And not only exceed that, but our sector will be more competitive, globally competitive, and also sustainable. So giving my best wishes to both the sector and CII, and thank you for inviting me today in this session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful remarks during the keynote address. I invite Mr. Kaushik Chatterjee to please give the concluding remarks and close the inaugural session.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the conclusion of the inaugural session, I would first like to thank Mr. Sandeep Pondrik, Secretary, Government of India, for giving us a very candid feedback on the opportunities, but also dealing with the challenges and the issues that we face. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Karamat, for your comments. And I think it's important, as Mr. Pondrik mentioned, that we don't talk about prices just yet in this kind of a conference. And there is a perception of various things that the steel industry does or doesn't do outside in the world. It takes $1 billion or 9,000 crores to set up a facility of 1 million ton. And the price, if I deconstruct in the common man's mind, is around 55 rupees a kg. Now at 55 rupees a kg, if you go to the market, what do you get in today's world? And for that, the amount of capex, the complexity of an industry, the supply chain complexity that gets set up is very significant. So I take your point, sir, that there is certainly a perception issue in the minds of people that what's the value of steel and what's the price of steel. There's certainly a gap in that, and this is for the industry, for all of us to address in different forms and forums. I think the other point that you rightly mentioned, and Jayant also alluded to it, is the profitability or the financial health of the steel industry, which is critical to realize the goal of another 100 million tons in the next 5 years, and every 5 years to add another 100 million tons to get to addressing the demand in the Indian economy, but also to address the requirements of a competitive supply of sustainable steel for the world. Because not too many places in the world is new capacity being set up. Most developed geographies are struggling with old capacities, and the investments are done on the fringes, on the value-add products, but not on the upstream side. And there we have a huge opportunity, endowed with minerals like iron ore and skilled labor and other factors of production. So I think the opportunity is certainly immense. It's for us to work together to be competitive, to ensure that we have the financial health, then to look at which is the area to make the investments and to use the right technology for the future and make those investments to ensure that the steel industry as a whole, not just the large players, as Secretary mentioned, that it is also for the entire ecosystem to grow, to ensure that the supply chain security is protected, and also the value chain keeps increasing in terms of catering to customers' demands and setting expectations of what should be the demand. For example, green steel, not too many customers will pay for green steel unless there is a carbon price for green steel. And if there is a carbon price, which the CCTS framework is talking about, you would certainly figure out that there is a economic equilibrium being set around sustainable or green steel. So let us commit to make the steel industry more technologically advanced, globally competitive, environmentally sustainable, and socially inclusive. I'm confident that the various panels today will engage in some of these deep discussions on some of these key topics on how we can navigate these challenges and create more opportunities. At a time when the world is going through significant changes, both structural and tactical, we must work together to achieve the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, where the steel sector does truly play a central role in driving economic growth and sustainability. Before I conclude, I would like to once again thank everybody here and express my gratitude to the Honorable Secretary and all other distinguished speakers for their inspiring speeches, and to all of you for having participated in this inaugural summit. Thank you.
I have one point to say. To curb this surge of imports, can't we put this import under the restricted category? Presently under OGL.